If you take a tuning fork, strike it to a perfect A note, and hold it just millimeters away from a raw, unpolished piece of clear quartz, the air between them will physically hum.
Oh, yeah. It's incredible.
Right. You don't just hear it. You actually feel it in your teeth. The stone literally wakes up. The acoustic wave from the metal fork interacts with the crystalline lattice of the quartz, and for a split second, that millions of years old rock is singing the exact same note.
It's pure physics meeting mysticism.
Exactly. So today we are looking at the precise mechanics of how to turn a seemingly inert piece of the earth into, well, a highly calibrated piece of spiritual technology.
Because that is exactly what a crystal is in the context of advanced energetic practice. I mean, it is technology. We're looking at a stack of incredibly detailed source material today that completely reframes our relationship with these minerals.
Yeah, we are moving way beyond the beginner concepts here.
Absolutely. This isn't about just picking a pretty stone because you like the color and, leaving it to gather dust on a windowsill. We are exploring the absolute bleeding edge of advanced crystal witchcraft.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today is to give you, the listener, the ultimate shortcut to mastering these advanced mechanics.
Right.
And because we know you already have a solid foundation in energetic work, we aren't going to waste time defining what a chakra is or explaining the basic premise of a Mercury retrograde. You already know the territory.
Yeah, we are here to map the deepest, most complex parts of it. We're talking about mapping planetary alignments to atomic structures, building customized multi-layered sacred geometry grids.
Oh, and the shadow work.
Yes, using specific mineral frequencies to act as like literal scalpels in deep psychological shadow work. What's fascinating here is the sheer level of precision required.
It's not just waving a wand around.
Not at all. Advanced crystal work is a participatory sport. It demands not just intuition, but immense critical thinking and an understanding of energetic physics. The sources we are diving into make it really clear that a crystal is not a passive wish-granting factory.
Right, it's a catalyst.
Exactly. It's a dynamic, ever-evolving tool that requires you to actively harmonize your own biomagnetism with its specific atomic vibration.
Which brings us to the absolute bedrock of this practice, which is attunement. Because before you can build a massive, complex, magical architecture, you have to understand the specific building blocks.
You really do.
You have to move from merely holding a crystal to actually aligning your frequency with it. And the material makes a really crucial distinction right off the bat. Attuning is not about transferring your energy into the crystal.
No, not at all. You aren't treating the stone like an empty flash drive and just, dumping your personal data onto it. If you treat a crystal like an empty vessel, you are completely overriding its natural properties. You have to look at the atomic structure. Every single crystal has a unique energy signature based on its geometric lattice.
So like silicon dioxide?
Exactly. Silicon dioxide, which is your basic quartz family, has a completely different vibrational baseline than something like beryl or corundum. When you attune, you are consciously tuning your own aura to match that specific frequency to create a symbiotic relationship.
You're adapting to it just as it's adapting to you.
Precisely.
It's exactly like tuning a musical instrument before a symphony. I mean, if you play the violin, you don't just walk onto the stage, aggressively play whatever notes you feel like, and expect the rest of the orchestra to somehow bend to your will.
That would be a disaster.
It would sound awful. You have to tune your strings to match a highly specific pitch, usually the oboe's A, before you can integrate into the larger piece of music. You are matching the frequency so you can create harmony together.
And if you are out of tune with the crystal, your energetic workings are going to be completely discordant. You'll just be throwing chaotic energy out into the universe.
So how do we actually achieve that harmony? Because the sources detail methods that require intense physiological presence. It's not a passive thing.
Right. When you sit in meditation to attune, you are placing a specific stone on a corresponding energy center and physically monitoring the shift in your own electromagnetic field.
Like putting an amethyst on your forehead.
Yeah, placing an amethyst on the third eye isn't just symbolic. You are placing a high-frequency mineral directly over the pineal gland to see how your body's electrical system reacts.
Oh, wow.
You hold the cleansed stone in a quiet space, and you focus entirely on the somatic feedback. Like, is there warmth? Is there a localized tingling? Does your heart rate drop?
So you are visualizing your energy, essentially dancing with the crystal's frequency.
Exactly.
But the text doesn't stop at attunement. It introduces this concept of activation, which is required for high magic. And honestly, I have to push back on the premise of this a little bit.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
Why do we need to wake up a rock? I mean, crystals are natural powerhouses, right? They've been vibrating at their atomic frequency since the Earth cooled. If they are already emitting energy, why does a human need to intervene to activate them?
That is a great question. It comes down to the difference between diffuse energy and coherent energy. Yes, the crystal is always vibrating. It naturally emits an energetic field.
Right.
But think of that raw energy like a standard light bulb hanging in the center of a room. It casts light everywhere, evenly, but it's diffuse. It illuminates, but it doesn't pierce.
Oh.
Activation is the alchemical process of taking that diffuse raw energy and aligning it with a very specific, highly concentrated human intention. It turns the light bulb into a laser beam.
A laser beam. That makes a ton of sense.
In advanced magic, precision is everything. You aren't just letting the crystal passively alter the room's vibe. You are actively engaging its piezoelectric properties to act as a focus conduit for a specific manifestation.
Okay, turning the light bulb into a laser beam. That physical mechanism just clicked for me. You are forcing all the light waves to travel in the exact same direction.
Exactly.
And the methods to achieve this focused state are really intense. We aren't just talking about leaving it in the moonlight overnight. We are talking about elemental stress testing.
Yeah, it gets very involved.
You bury the stone in salt or raw earth to ground its baseline. You pass it through dense incense smoke to align it with air and intellect. You expose it to open candlelight for fire, pushing its energetic output into overdrive.
But the most mechanically intriguing method in the source material is exactly what you mentioned at the start of our deep dive.
The tuning fork.
Yes, activation via acoustic resonance, using singing bowls, tuning forks, or high-pitched chimes. There is hard physics underlying this metaphysical practice. Sound waves are mechanical pressure waves. So when you introduce a clear, resonant tone from a tuning fork near a crystal, you are physically compressing and expanding the air around it. Because crystals are perfectly structured matrices, they respond to that mechanical pressure.
That is wild.
The sound wave envelops the stone, shatters any residual energetic static clinging to its field, and forces the crystal's atomic vibration to snap to a state of high alert.
So you literally strike the tuning fork, hold it close to the stone, and bridge the gap between sound and solid matter.
Exactly.
And once that stone is highly active, awake, and tuned to your specific frequency, what happens when you introduce a second stone? Or a fifth? Or a 12th?
Now you're scaling up.
Right. Once you have individually activated components, you can start building complex sacred geometry grids. We move from the micro to the macro.
And a single activated crystal is a really powerful tool. But a crystal grid is an energetic engine. The sources define a grid as a geometric arrangement of crystals that acts as an architectural template for manifestation. By placing multiple stones into specific symmetrical patterns, you are not just adding their power together. You are exponentially multiplying it through the mathematics of the geometry.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, because this entire concept operates exactly like building a customized printed circuit board.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
If you open up any high-end piece of electronics, you see all these different components, right? Resistors, capacitors, microchips, and they are all connected by a highly intricate, deliberate wiring path.
Right.
In a crystal grid, the sacred geometry, whether that's the seed of life, a spiraling Fibonacci sequence, or Metatron's cube, is the wiring. The geometry dictates the precise path the energetic current must flow.
And the crystals are the specific hardware components you solder onto that board to manage the current.
Exactly.
That analogy holds up perfectly when you look at the architecture of the grids detailed in our material.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just throw stones into a random circle. You build out in deliberate concentric layers.
A central focal point, an inner layer, a middle layer, and an outer broadcasting layer.
Yes. Let's look at the psychology and the mechanics of the abundance and protection grid, for example. You don't just put down a dozen pieces of citrine and demand wealth.
Because that would probably backfire.
It would be too unstable. The center of this grid is your CPU, your core intention. In this case, a massive piece of citrine. But the inner layer, the stones immediately surrounding that core, is black tourmaline.
Which acts as the resistor. It acts as the surge protector for the entire board.
Exactly. And there is a profound psychological demand being made on the practitioner right here. By forcing you to physically place black tourmaline between your core desire for wealth and the outer world, the grid forces you to deconstruct your own ambition.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it makes you realize that before the energy of abundance can safely ripple out and attract wealth, it must first pass through a strict layer of grounding and defense. You cannot sustain massive financial or energetic influxes if you aren't protected from the people, habits, or forces that want to drain it.
So the grid demands that you do the psychological prep work before the magic even activates.
It forces the issue, yes.
It's a physical map of your internal obstacles. You have your citrine core, your tourmaline surge protectors. Yeah. Then the middle layer is green aventurine, acting as the capacitor, storing and amplifying the prosperity frequency.
Right.
Finally, the outer layer is clear quartz, acting as the antennas, broadcasting that complex, multi-layered signal out into the universe. And to turn the machine on, to send the current through the system, you have to actively link it.
You have to close the circuit.
Yeah. You take a crystal wand or your dominant index finger, and you trace the invisible lines of the geometry. You start at the outermost quartz antenna, draw a line of energy to the aventurine, then to the tourmaline, spiraling inward until you strike the central citrine.
You are manually closing the circuit. And the beauty of this is you can alter the hardware for any intention.
Like a healing grid.
Exactly. A grid designed for profound spiritual healing swaps the CPU to amethyst, uses rose quartz in the inner layer for deep emotional soothing, selenite in the middle layer to connect to higher guidance, and caps the outside with labradorite.
To protect the aura.
Right, to protect the aura during the vulnerable state of healing. What all of these complex grids share is deliberate, highly conscious architecture. You are taking abstract, formless desire, funneling it through precise intention, and anchoring it into physical, geometric reality.
But here is where we have to look at the scale of what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We've just built a highly customized, perfectly calibrated microcircuit on a wooden table.
Okay.
But that table is sitting inside a house, which is sitting on a planet. What happens when we take our customized microcircuit and plug it directly into the massive, naturally occurring macrocircuit of the Earth itself?
Then you tap into a level of power that completely dwarfs human biomagnetism. The source material spends a massive amount of time on Earth magic, specifically the interaction between crystals and telluric currents.
Ley lines.
Commonly known as ley lines, yes. These are invisible, immense, energetic corridors that crisscross the globe. They are the Earth's naturally occurring electromagnetic grid.
It's basically the planet's nervous system.
Exactly. Historically, ancient architects understood this grid implicitly. This is why sites like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids of Giza, and Machu Picchu aren't just randomly placed. They sit directly upon major convergence points, or vortexes, where multiple ley lines intersect and pool their energy.
And because crystals are literal pieces of the Earth's crust, they naturally interface with this planetary grid without any resistance.
Right.
They act as natural amplifiers and storage drives for this telluric energy.
They do. The practice here involves burying a fully programmed crystal directly at a ley line convergence point to anchor your intention deeply into the planet's baseline frequency.
Or earthing, right?
Yes, for a more personal connection, the practice of earthing standing barefoot on the raw soil, placing high-density stones directly on the ground, and allowing the Schumann resonance, the actual heartbeat of the planet, to flush through your physical body.
But how do you find these lines? I know the text talks about pendulum dowsing to map this unseen grid.
Right. Advanced practitioners utilize pendulum dowsing. You use a specialized pendulum, typically carved from clear quartz, to act as a pure receiver, or amethyst for heightened intuitive clarity.
Okay.
You are using the pendulum to detect the incredibly subtle electromagnetic fields generated by these underground energetic pathways. You program the pendulum's swing, establishing what movement indicates a yes and what indicates a no or a directional pull.
And then you just walk around.
Basically, you physically walk the land. You hold the pendulum steady and allow your own neuromuscular system, combined with the localized magnetic field, to guide you. When you hit the current, the pendulum responds dynamically.
I have to play the skeptic here, though, regarding the modern application of this. I mean, I understand dowsing in an ancient, untouched forest or in the shadow of a monolithic ruin. But what about the listener who lives in the middle of a massive modern metropolis?
That's the challenge.
Right. Or in a suburban sprawl. If I walk out into a tiny backyard next to a transformer box, a sprinkler system, and a house blasting 3 different Wi-Fi networks, how on earth am I supposed to douse for a pure ley line? Doesn't all that man-made electromagnetic interference just completely fry the signal?
It's the most common hurdle for the modern practitioner. The interference is very real, but the material emphasizes that the Earth's energy grid is exactly that, a planetary grid. It isn't restricted to untouched wilderness or historical monuments.
So it's under the cities, too.
Absolutely. There are massive global arteries, yes, but there are also thousands of localized capillary-level energetic pathways weaving underneath every single city block and suburban cul-de-sac.
So how do you filter out the Wi-Fi and the power lines?
To bypass the man-made EMFs, you have to tune your pendulum and your own mind to a specific frequency. You explicitly program your intention to ignore artificial currents. You're telling your subconscious and the quartz receiver to only respond to organic telluric resonance.
You essentially have to turn on the noise-canceling function of your own intuition.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the underlying philosophy here is vital. Tapping into earth magic isn't about escaping modern life to play in the woods.
Right.
It is about acknowledging that even beneath millions of tons of concrete, the earth is still vibrating. Finding a localized current in a city park, placing a piece of raw black tourmaline on the soil, and consciously linking your root chakra to the planet's macro grid is an act of profound energetic rebellion against the static of modern life. It forces you back into biological rhythm.
But pulling that massive, ancient, stabilizing power from the Earth's grid comes with a severe warning in the text, because once you flood your system with that level of raw vitality, it illuminates everything inside of you.
It really does. There's no hiding.
And that means we have to turn away from the external planet and dive straight into the most treacherous, terrifying terrain of all, which is the human subconscious. We have to talk about the absolute necessity of shadow work.
Yes. Because if you try to run massive amounts of planetary or cosmic energy through a human psyche that is heavily burdened with suppressed trauma, jealousy, fear, or shame, the energy has nowhere safe to flow.
You will literally blow a mental fuse.
The magic will fail, or worse, it will manifest chaotically. Shadow work is the intense psychological process of deliberately exploring and integrating those hidden, rejected parts of your personality.
The parts of yourself you shove down into the dark because they are ugly or painful.
Exactly.
It is exhausting, emotionally brutal work. I always picture shadow work as making the conscious decision to finally walk down the stairs into a pitch black, damp, terrifying basement in a house you've lived in your whole life.
That is a great analogy.
You know there are monsters down there. You know you are going to find boxes of resentment and rotting floorboards of childhood trauma, but you have to clean it out because the rot is threatening the foundation of the whole house.
It has to be done.
In this scenario, the crystals aren't just pretty accessories, they are your heavy-duty survival equipment.
They're tangible, physical anchors in the material world while your mind is navigating absolute darkness. The sources explicitly highlight black obsidian for this phase.
Obsidian is intense.
It is. It's volcanic glass. It is born of violent, rapid cooling. Energetically, it acts as a high-powered flashlight and an unforgiving mirror.
So it forces you to look at the mess.
It forces you to look directly at your most toxic patterns without flinching, but its extreme density also provides a massive protective shield so that the shadows you uncover don't completely consume your waking mind.
So it illuminates the monster but puts a wall of glass between you and its teeth.
That's exactly it.
And once you've seen the trauma, you have to process it. This is where stones like pink amethyst and rainbow obsidian become critical. If black obsidian is the harsh flashlight, pink amethyst is the comforting, heavy blanket you wrap around your shoulders when the panic sets in.
It physically soothes the nervous system.
Yeah, it pulls those suppressed, terrifying emotions up to the surface with a frequency of deep self-compassion rather than judgment.
But the true alchemical tool in this psychological basement is kyanite. Kyanite is utilized for cutting toxic ties and promoting radical forgiveness.
What makes kyanite so special for them?
What makes it structurally and practically unique is that its crystalline matrix does not accumulate or retain negative energy. It literally never needs to be cleansed.
Wait, really? Never?
Never. Therefore, when you realize that a massive part of your shadow is tied to an unhealthy attachment, a past relationship that destroyed your confidence, a painful memory you keep looping, or a toxic habit, kyanite acts as a sterile, energetic scalpel.
Oh, wow. So you physically hold the kyanite and you visualize that toxic attachment as a thick, heavy cord connecting your body to the past.
Yes.
You use the stone to physically mimic the motion of slicing through that cord. Because the stone cannot hold on to the negativity, the cut is clean. You're using a physical, alchemical tool to execute a profound psychological release. You sever the tie, and the shadow loses its power source.
And that release leaves a massive void in the psyche that must be filled with deliberate intention, leading to true inner transformation.
Nature abhors a vacuum.
Exactly. The material suggests utilizing galena to journey back and retrieve the fragmented parts of your soul, howlite to soothe the anger of letting go, and aquamarine to provide the vast ocean-like courage required to step into a new identity. Because once you integrate your shadow, the entire landscape of your reality shifts.
You've cleaned out the basement, you've rewired the house, your internal architecture is finally stable enough to handle the truly massive currents.
You're ready for the big stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
So our awareness naturally expands upward, leaving the Earth entirely. We have to look at the cosmic weather. We've mastered the microcircuit, we've plugged into the planet, and we've conquered our own minds. Now, how do the shifting alignments of the solar system dictate the magic we perform?
Well, astrological crystal magic operates on the principle that celestial bodies, planets, moons, distant stars are not just rocks in a vacuum.
Right.
They emit colossal vibrational frequencies that directly alter the electromagnetic and subtle energy fields on Earth. The art of the advanced practitioner is matching the specific atomic vibration of a crystal to the macro vibration of a planet.
Either to harness that celestial power like a sail catching the wind, or to build a bunker to shield yourself from its turbulence.
Precisely. And the correspondences in the source material are incredibly specific, and they map perfectly to both the physical chemistry and the mythological archetype of the stones.
Like the sun in citrine.
Yes, you pair the sun, which governs immense vitality and conscious leadership, with the fiery warmth of sunstone and the bright projective energy of citrine. The moon, governing the subconscious, intuition, and the tides, is paired with moonstone and the ethereal, high-frequency white light of selenite.
And what about Mercury? That's communication, right?
Exactly. Mercury governs intellect, travel, and communication. To harness that, you use blue lace agate, which specifically targets the throat chakra and neurological pathways to ensure clarity of expression.
Okay, that makes sense.
Venus, the archetype of love, beauty, and magnetism, corresponds flawlessly with the gentle drawing energy of rose quartz. Mars is the planet of action, aggression, and kinetic force. It's a planet covered in iron oxide, so you pair it with carnelian, a stone that also gets its deep, fiery red color from iron oxide impurities.
See, that is exactly why it works. The physical chemistry mirrors the cosmic archetype.
It's all connected. You have Jupiter for vast expansion and abundance, paired with green aventurine. Saturn, the great taskmaster of discipline, restriction, and structure, is anchored by the supreme density of black tourmaline.
Uranus
for sudden innovation and rebellion, sparked by the pure amplifier of clear quartz. Neptune for deep mystical spirituality and illusion, enhanced by amethyst. And Pluto, the distant lord of the underworld, transformation and absolute rebirth, is paired with the volcanic death and rebirth energy of obsidian.
So by understanding this planetary map, you stop fighting the current.
You work with the weather, not against it.
Right. If you are crafting a complex grid to launch a new business, which requires kinetic action and clear communication, you don't build it on a Saturday, which is ruled by restrictive Saturn.
That would be counterproductive.
You wait for a Tuesday ruled by Mars, or a Wednesday ruled by Mercury, and you utilize carnelian and blue lace agate. You align your specific intention with the overarching cosmic weather.
Exactly.
But the cosmic weather isn't always a gentle breeze. Sometimes it is an absolute hurricane. And that brings us to one of the most contentious debates in the entire source material, which is eclipses.
Oh, this is a massive topic.
There is a huge schism in the advanced community regarding whether you should utilize the energy of a solar or lunar eclipse. I'm going to argue for a second that if I am a practitioner who has done my shadow work and I want a radical, total life overhaul, shouldn't I be eager to throw my crystals out under an eclipse to absorb that chaotic, world-breaking storm energy? Don't I want the tornado?
This raises an important question, and it is a tempting proposition. That is exactly why the debate exists. An eclipse is a massive, highly concentrated anomaly in the cosmic flow.
Right.
The luminaries are literally blocking each other out. It generates energy that is raw, chaotic, and fundamentally unpredictable. It forces sudden endings, abrupt shifts, and violent reveals. The practitioners who charge their crystals during an eclipse are trying to bottle lightning.
But there's a danger there.
A severe danger. And the reason the source material strongly advises against this for manifestation work is that erratic energy fries delicate matrices.
It's exactly like plugging your laptop directly into the wall during a massive lightning storm without a surge protector. You might get power, but you are exponentially more likely to completely fry the motherboard.
That is the perfect analogy. You imbue the crystal with a frequency of instability. If you use an eclipse-charged citrine in an abundance grid, you might manifest a massive sum of money, but it will likely come through a chaotic or destructive avenue.
Like an insurance payout from a terrible car crash.
Exactly. This is why the advanced protocol dictates that eclipses should strictly be utilized for cleansing and releasing, never for charging.
So what do you do instead?
You take your heaviest grounding stones, smoky quartz, hematite. You write down the toxic traits, the fears, or the relationships you need to banish, and you let the chaotic, void energy of the eclipse rip that stagnant energy out of your life.
You let the tornado clear the debris. You don't try to lock the tornado in your house.
Let the storm do the demolition work.
That is brilliant. And speaking of surviving cosmic turbulence, the text provides two highly specific defensive architectures for dealing with astrological stress: the retrograde grid and the Saturn return grid.
Both are essential survival tools.
Everyone groans about Mercury retrograde because it notoriously causes communication breakdowns, travel delays, and technology literally glitching out.
To counteract this, the sources suggest building a localized Faraday cage of energy.
A Faraday cage.
Yeah, you place black tourmaline in the center for an uncompromising ground. You surround it with labradorite to act as a reflective shield for your aura. You use fluorite, which geometrically structures energy, to counteract mental fog and confusion.
Okay, that covers the mind.
And you weave in blue lace agate to physically soothe the throat chakra and prevent you from lashing out when misunderstandings inevitably happen.
So you were basically building a bunker for your mind.
Pretty much.
But the Saturn return grid is on an entirely different level of gravity. For those who don't know, your Saturn return occurs roughly every 29.5 years when the planet Saturn returns to the exact mathematical degree it occupied the moment you were born.
It is the universe's most brutal audit.
If you have been living a life built on false premises, ignoring your true calling, or refusing to take responsibility, Saturn will violently tear those false structures down. It causes total existential crises. Marriages end, careers are abandoned, identities collapse.
Saturn demands absolute authenticity and ironclad discipline. The stability grid designed for this period is not a shield. You cannot hide from Saturn.
So it's an anchor.
Yes. It utilizes immense heavy stones like black tourmaline, smoky quartz, and hematite to keep your nervous system profoundly grounded while the tectonic plates of your life are shifting.
That sounds necessary.
It incorporates amethyst to provide the spiritual clarity necessary to actually understand the brutal lessons Saturn is teaching you rather than just playing the victim. And it centers on Tiger's Eye, which provides the fierce, practical courage needed to take absolute responsibility for the new path you are being forced onto.
We aren't just waving wands at the sky in hopes of good luck. We are utilizing geological density to build architectural support systems for our psychology during times of intense stress.
Very practical.
But speaking of wands, we've mapped the stars, we've explored the depths of our own minds, we've plugged into the earth. How do we take all of this vast abstract theory and physically ingest it or direct it with pinpoint physical accuracy?
Now we turn to practical alchemy, advanced elixirs and elemental wands.
Let's start with elixirs.
An elixir, at its most fundamental alchemical level, is the process of transferring the vibrational frequency of a crystal matrix into the molecular structure of water. Water is the ultimate universal conductor.
Right, water memory.
Exactly. It absorbs and holds the energetic signature of whatever it is exposed to. By creating a crystal elixir, you are taking the external vibration of the stone, imprinting it onto the water, and then physically drinking it, allowing that specific frequency to flush through your digestive system, your bloodstream, and your cellular structure.
You are internalizing the magic.
You literally are.
But, we absolutely must stop here and issue the most critical safety warning in the entire source text.
Please do. This is so important.
This is where metaphysical practice violently collides with physical chemistry. You cannot just drop any shiny rock into your water bottle.
No, you absolutely cannot.
The direct method, where the naked stone sits submerged in the water you are going to drink, is exclusively reserved for perfectly stable, non-toxic stones. Clear quartz, rose quartz, amethyst. But a massive portion of the mineral kingdom is highly toxic, soluble, or reactive.
The chemistry cannot be ignored. Malachite, for example, is highly prized for deep emotional healing, but it is fundamentally a copper carbonate hydroxide.
Right.
If you put it in water, it leaches toxic copper. Pyrite, the ultimate manifestation stone, is iron sulfide, When exposed to water, it produces sulfuric acid.
Yikes.
Hematite contains iron and will literally rust, giving you tetanus water. Selenite is a form of gypsum and will simply dissolve into a chalky mush. If you ignore the chemistry, you aren't doing magic, you are just poisoning yourself.
You are making toxic rock tea, which is why the advanced practice relies heavily on the indirect method. If you want the fierce, transformational energy of malachite pulsing through your cells, you place the dry malachite into a small, hermetically sealed glass vial or jar. You then submerge that sealed glass container into your larger pitcher of drinking water.
The physics of the indirect method are beautiful. Glass is an amorphous solid, often made of silica, just like quartz. It acts as a perfect physical barrier against the toxic heavy metals, but it is completely transparent to the vibrational frequency.
So the energy still gets through.
The energetic signature passes effortlessly through the glass wall and imprints onto the surrounding water.
It's the exact same principle as using a double boiler to melt delicate chocolate on a stove. You need the thermal energy of the boiling water to transfer to the chocolate, but if the boiling water physically touches the chocolate, the whole batch is ruined.
The glass is your thermal, or in this case, vibrational barrier. You get the heat without destroying the ingredients.
Once you master the safety protocols of the indirect method, you can move into complex, layered elixirs. You are no longer just making a rose quartz tonic.
You can get really creative. You are chemically blending sodalite to open the throat chakra, with carnelian to ignite the sacral chakra's creative fire, effectively brewing a customized potion for public speaking or artistic expression. You can even charge these waters under specific astrological alignments.
And the most extreme version of this mentioned in the text is the cosmic infusion elixir, specifically using moldavite.
Oh, moldavite is wild.
Right. Moldavite is a tektite. It is not born of the earth. It was formed by a massive meteorite impact millions of years ago. It literally carries extraterrestrial cosmic impact energy.
The text describes placing a sealed vial of moldavite into a bowl of spring water and leaving it out under the light of a full moon. When you drink that, you are physically ingesting the energetic echo of a cosmic collision. It is an unparalleled catalyst for rapid, forceful evolution.
That is intense. And while elixirs are the ultimate method for absorbing energy, crystal wands are the ultimate method for directing it.
Yes, and we aren't talking about buying a factory-polished, mass-produced stick of quartz. We are talking about alchemically crafting an elemental wand. This is a highly deliberate process of pairing specific living woods with specific crystalline structures to channel the raw forces of nature.
The craftsmanship is the magic. The wood acts as the biological circuitry, and the stone is the focusing lens.
Exactly.
If you are crafting an earth wand for grounding and material manifestation, you pair the deep, ancient strength of oak wood with the stabilizing frequency of green aventurine. An air wand, designed for intellectual pursuits and clearing mental fog, pairs the whipping flexibility of willow wood with the piercing clarity of clear quartz.
And a fire wand, for aggressive passion and protection, marries the bright energy of cherry wood with a blazing carnelian point.
What about water and spirit?
A water wand, used for emotional flow and deep empathic healing, might use salt-cured driftwood, tipped with soothing aquamarine. And a spirit wand, designed for contacting higher realms, would pair historically sacred yew wood with a high-grade amethyst point. The wand physically becomes an extension of your own central nervous system.
The mechanics of how you hold it are fascinating, too. The blunt, rounded end of the wand is designed to draw energy in. You can use it to pull stagnant energy out of a blocked chakra.
Right.
But the pointed, terminated end is your laser beam. You take the immense, diffuse intention vibrating in your mind, channel it down your arm through the biological wood grain, and the crystal point focuses it into a single, piercing vector of will.
You use it to trace the invisible lines to activate your complex grids, to carve protective symbols into the air of a room, or to direct concentrated healing energy precisely into an injury.
It is the ultimate alchemical tool for forcing consequence onto the material world. But what happens when the advanced practitioner has fully mastered the material world?
Then it's time to leave it.
Exactly. You understand the geometry, the planetary alignments, the chemistry of the elixirs, and the psychological depth of the shadow. The physical tools are perfected. The final frontier of this entire practice requires you to leave the physical body entirely.
We have arrived at the pinnacle.
The unseen realms. Astral travel, dreams, and consciousness. Armed with a mind fortified by shadow work, a physical space protected by grids, and a frequency elevated by elixirs, we are talking about stepping out of the biological shell and exploring the astral plane.
Astral projection is the deliberate conscious act of moving your awareness into a non-physical dimension of reality.
Which is definitely not a beginner's practice.
It is absolutely not a beginner's practice. It requires an incredibly high, sustained vibrational frequency, complete physiological paralysis, meaning the body is asleep but the mind remains violently awake, and an absolute fortress of energetic protection.
Because your body is empty, basically.
Exactly. When your consciousness travels, your physical and energetic shell is left completely vacant and vulnerable in the material world.
Which is why the crystal toolkit for astral work is highly specialized. You aren't using grounding stones here. You need stones that shatter the illusion of gravity. The text highlights apophyllite as the primary engine for this.
Apophyllite interacts directly with the pineal gland, shifting the brainwaves out of the waking beta state, past the meditative alpha state, and deep into the theta and delta states where consciousness can detach. It facilitates what the source refers to as quantum travel.
Moldavite is also heavily utilized here, acting as the rocket fuel to push the consciousness past the near-Earth astral layers and into multidimensional or higher-dimensional realms.
But the unsung hero of this practice and the absolute non-negotiable requirement is labradorite.
Ah, for the shield.
Yes. You lay a piece of labradorite on your physical chest before you project. It acts as an impenetrable, iridescent shield over your physical aura, ensuring that no parasitic or lower astral energies can attach to your physical form while you are out exploring.
Good to know. But the text acknowledges that fully conscious astral projection is extreme. For the practitioner who wants to explore the unseen realms without fully separating from the body, the path inward is through dream work.
We spend a third of our biological lives asleep. In advanced witchcraft, sleep isn't a biological shutdown. It is an active, vital laboratory for the subconscious. And the primary alchemical technique here is dream programming.
You are intentionally giving your subconscious mind a specific mission to execute while your conscious, analytical mind is turned off. So what does this all mean? How do you actually program a rock?
It's a highly specific protocol.
You aren't just staring at a piece of quartz and thinking really hard at it before your head hits the pillow, right?
No, it requires extreme focus and visualization. You take a freshly cleansed crystal, you hold it in both hands in a completely dark, silent space to minimize external sensory input. You distill your intention down into a single precise command. For example, rather than saying, "I want good dreams," you state, "I program this crystal to trigger my awareness when I am dreaming, so I can achieve lucidity."
Very specific.
Extremely. As you speak the command aloud, locking it into the physical space, you visualize a blinding beam of coherent light shooting from your third eye directly into the crystalline lattice of the stone.
You are writing code into the silicon dioxide. The crystal stores that vibrational command. You place it under your pillow, and it continuously broadcasts that standing order into your biomagnetic field for the entire 8 hours you are asleep.
But once again, we have to look at the safety and practical mechanics of what goes under your pillow. You have to carefully curate the energetic environment of your bed.
What works best?
Placing an amethyst under your pillow is fantastic. It naturally stimulates the third eye and promotes deeply vivid symbolic dreams. Placing moonstone there enhances your intuitive receptivity to messages from your guides.
But placing a massive piece of citrine under your pillow is an amateur mistake.
A huge mistake. Citrine is pure, kinetic, solar energy. It is the energetic equivalent of chugging a double espresso at midnight. Your body will be exhausted, but your mind will be racing.
And the most surprising warning in the text was regarding selenite. Selenite is famously known as the ultimate, peaceful, angelic cleansing stone.
Yeah, but the source explicitly warns that for highly sensitive people, putting selenite under the pillow can cause severe insomnia.
Wait, really? Because it's too peaceful?
Because its vibrational frequency is so incredibly high. It's like trying to fall asleep with a stadium floodlight pointed directly at your face. It's just too much light.
Oh, wow, that makes perfect sense. To manage these energies, advanced practitioners often build a specific dream grid on their nightstand, rather than putting stones directly in the bed.
But the text makes one thing abundantly clear. None of the apophyllite, none of the programming, and none of the grids will result in lucid dreaming or astral awareness without the most mundane yet absolutely essential tool in the entire practice.
The dream journal. The absolute non-negotiable necessity of physical documentation.
If you do not write down the data your subconscious is providing, your brain assumes the data is irrelevant and deletes it upon waking. By forcing yourself to write down your dreams the absolute second you wake up, you are building a neurological bridge between the astral experience and the waking analytical mind.
You are actively training your brain to look for dream signs. You track the journal for recurring themes or impossible physics.
Like what?
Like, if you notice that in your dreams, digital clocks always display alien symbols, or light switches never work, or trying to run feels like moving through thick molasses, you log that data.
Oh, I see.
Eventually, your waking brain memorizes those glitches. The next time you are asleep and you see a clock with alien symbols, the analytical part of your brain sparks and says, wait, that's a dream sign. I am dreaming. Boom. You achieve lucidity. You take conscious control of the dreamscape.
If we pull all the way back and synthesize this entire massive deep dive, the sections on lucid dreaming and astral travel truly represent the absolute apex of advanced crystal witchcraft. Think about the mechanical and spiritual progression we have mapped out today.
It's staggering. I mean, we started at the absolute physical foundation, learning the physics of how to attune our biomagnetism to a stone, and using acoustic resonance to violently wake a crystal up from its dormant state.
Then we scaled up, mathematically arranging those stones into complex alchemical circuit boards using sacred geometry to throttle and amplify our desires.
We took those custom circuits and plugged them directly into the colossal power grid of the Earth, utilizing telluric currents and pendulum dowsing.
We then recognized the danger of that raw power and turned it inward. We utilized the heavy density of obsidian and the sterile severing power of kyanite to descend into the psychological basement and dismantle our shadow selves.
We mapped the macro frequencies of the planets, learning to harness the specific chemical correspondences of stones to align with the cosmic weather, and building heavy Faraday cage grids to survive the brutal audits of eclipses and Saturn returns.
We respected the physical chemistry of the minerals, mastering the indirect method to safely brew high-vibration elixirs, and we alchemically bonded living wood to crystalline lattices to craft elemental wands that shoot our intentions into reality like a laser.
And finally, having mastered the physical plane, we used specialized high-frequency stones to program our subconscious minds, bridge our brainwaves, and project our pure consciousness into the unseen dimensions.
It fundamentally transforms the use of crystals from a passive aesthetic hobby into a rigorous, active, and profoundly demanding spiritual science. You're no longer just holding a rock. You're operating a highly complex piece of universal technology.
But I want to leave you, the listener, with one final provocative thought. Through all of these complex mechanics, the source material states one overarching, undeniable rule. The most powerful magic comes from within, and crystals are merely the catalysts.
It's a powerful statement.
I want you to really mull over the physics of that statement. If the crystal is truly just a catalyst, a lens, a tuning fork, a circuit board, then the vast cosmic energies you're pulling down, the terrifying healing of your own shadow self, and the staggering ability to leave your physical body and travel the astral plane. None of that power was actually in the stone.
The stone didn't possess the magic.
Exactly.
Okay.
It was in you the entire time. The crystal didn't press a button to rewrite the universe. It simply helped you isolate and amplify your own frequency so that you could rewrite the universe. The stone is just the acoustic resonator. You are the note.
That's a phenomenal question to leave hanging in the air.
So the next time you hold a piece of raw quartz or heavy obsidian, ask yourself, are you holding a magic tool that is going to save you? Or are you simply looking into a highly polished ancient mirror that is finally reflecting your own infinite potential back at you? Thank you for joining us on this incredibly expansive deep dive into the source material. We hope the mechanics we've unpacked today have sparked some major paradigm shifts in how you view your practice. Keep exploring the science, keep questioning the mechanics, and keep learning.